Ladies and gentlemen, now, without wasting any more time, let's quickly hop onto our panel discussion on dealing with the disruption BFSI priorities in 2022, for which we have with us Milan Delansky, Chief Digital Officer, Home Credit India, Jasoda Gulia, Business Head, Press Loans, Dipesh Karki, Chief Digital Officer, Lane Club, Yasharaj Tyagi, Chief Business Officer and CTO, Cash E, Krishnamurthy Rajesh, Director Information Technology Global, Grey Orange, who will be moderating the session. A very warm welcome to you all, sir. Now, I would request Krishnamurthy Rajesh to take the session forward. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Shivani, and welcome to this interesting panel discussion on digital transformation and the impact in BFSI industry. And I'm really happy to be a part of such esteemed panelists coming out from a different background because a couple of them are from a technology background, couple of them are demand and supply background, and couple of them are in terms of startup who has the zeal to do or take a risk to make things happen. Without wasting time, I would like to directly jump into the discussion. The key areas of focus when executing digital transformation. This question is to Milan. If you can just quickly tell your view on this.
Okay, I didn't hear the question totally because there was interruption. I'm sorry. But if it was about the success and what is critical for the digital transformation, then in my eyes, it's always the customer, right? So you have to always look on actually where the customer is benefiting from your digital transformation. And you have two different parts of it. One is the what customers see, and one is actually how you are presenting yourself, typically through the digital space, in our case, right? And the second part is, which is, let's say, the in-house digitalization, which is your back office processes and everything else. So I think 2021, thanks to COVID, was a lot about actually customer-facing innovations and digitalization. And 2022 will be about inside digitalization and getting on the track with what we sometimes rushed to be there with the customers in 2020.
Oh, that's interesting. Milan, so I just wanted to ask a supplementary questions. When you talk about in terms of the need of the business, which needs to be transformed in terms of solution, what do you think is the major takeaway which happened in during this COVID era? Like how you would see this same trend happening prior to 2020 and prior to the COVID and during the COVID? Do you see there is something like escalations which has happened in terms of the requirement and implementations and something like that?
I think what was incredible to see actually what does it mean MVP in real life, right? Because we always talk about the minimal valuable product, and it's like fancy term in the digital world. But only COVID and this crisis basically teached us what is the real minimum valuable product, because you saw services running on WhatsApp, you saw services running on whatever other communication channel which was available at that point of time. And I think that's the real learning actually from there, that to run the service, you don't need too much of the fancy solutions. You just need good customer service and the understanding of the customer, what service you are selling.
Yeah, absolutely right. I second on that. And in fact, this pandemic has also taught us in terms of to take a risk and move to a next step in which we are not only enabling it from our own perspective, but also looking into from a 360 degree as a enterprise level in a holistic way. So taking this discussion forward, Jasuda, because you are coming on from, in terms of process and the requirement background, I wanted to understand is like when we talk about a digital transformations or maybe automation. So a lot of companies have gone into that, and a couple of them have burned their fingers. And still, like in pandemic, we were able to see a lot of success stories. What do you think has changed in terms of the requirement what business was having prior to the COVID and during the COVID, because of which a lot of companies are emerging on digital transformation journey?
So, Krishna, I would say prior to COVID, we were actually in practice to have things in a longer process, in a term, if I would say. So we were following the traditional way of doing method, whether it comes to the serving the customer, whether it is acquiring the customer, or whether it is to servicing, and then also at our end in the terms of collection. But then later during this COVID period, everything was changed. Either you can say in the option whether we didn't had anything to in hand, but then things gonna be smoother in many ways, and we learned smoother in any ways. Like previously, anything, let's say in case we are sitting and talking now. Previously, we had a physical mode of conclaves where we used to sit and we used to talk. So now things are more smoother in terms of whether we can say that the business activities can be done through from entire world on the lesser cost, in fact, and without having the physical presence. But at the same time, in case we can see on the because I am representing the lending institution, so I can be on a practical side of the collection, where collection is being more hassle-full during this time, because we focus more on the acquisition of the client. In case if I represent whole of the industry, we try to acquire the customer online. We given the services digitally, but when it comes to the collection and recovery, that was the part which has been left. But then, in case of any technology, which can help in recovery in terms of giving some set of trends or some advanced signals which can help BFSI segment. So I would say yes, there are definitely benefits where we are getting the smoothness in the work and servicing the client, but at the same time, we need to be alert for the future and to work more on the digital side for the recovery segment.
That's interesting. So, just taking this discussion forward, the supplementary question is when you talk about in terms of recovery aspect. So now during the pandemic, because of the social economical reasons, the NPA has gone up. So how do you see the recovery is working in hand to hand when you talk about the disbursement? Because the end of the day, what happens is a lot of BFSI when do a disbursement, and also like in terms of the recovery aspect, the digital as a gamut is helping organization in different ways. So what is your view in terms of to put forward those technology to reduce the NPA and also from a defaulter perspective?
Okay. So I would say there was previously there was some expertise we would say like video KYC and uh, video meetings with the clients and video visit on the premises of the client, whether it is a business premises, whether it is a residential premises. So previously, it was some of the expertise which were used to followed by few of the players in the market. But then, yes, during this time, at least we learned that this is also way out there where before dispersing, at least make sure that whether the client is actually available in the premises, what is the infrastructure, whether it is because previously also we used to take out the civil of the client to have the previous track record of the customer. So considering all these things, yes, to reduce the risk, there are digitally, yes, few are ways available in terms of video KYC, video, as I said, digitally, we can work on the client's profile. So yes, it is somehow helpful, but then yes, there are still some ways where recovery requires physical presence as of now in the industry.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, so moving forward, Dipesh, my
Yep.
next question would be to you. Like when you talk about in terms of BFSI sector has been accelerating digital banking transformation effort in terms of digitalization. What are the major digital banking transformation trend which you could see in 2022 and going forward?
Yeah. So, see, post-pandemic, I mean, almost everyone has learned that digital is the way, right? I mean, there will come a situation wherein you may not be able to see your customers, your peers as well, right, physically. So you should be mentally be prepared in order to uh, treat or provide the same experience, right? If not better, at least same experience through a digital space. So first thing that is coming up is mobile first, right? Moving your entire shop to a palm shop from the traditional brick and mortar structure. Second thing that I'm seeing is promoting digital banking experience a lot, right? Now, earlier, nobody used to talk so much about digital banking, but today, I mean, just like Jaswata also mentioned, right? All of us are moving towards the digital space wherein you would want your customer not to interact with you. I mean, it also reduces the hassle in terms of number of interactions. It makes sure that you can focus in other areas of customers experience enhancement, such as providing timely response, building a personalized experience for the customer. In fact, that is another area that BFSI is focusing on, right? Providing a personalized experience for each and every customer. As compared to the traditional one, wherein a person would visit a relationship manager and the person may or may not remember, right? So this is another trend that I'm observing. Further, shift towards cloud computing is quite aggressively growing as of now, right? I can see that a lot of traditional BFSIs are talking to the big cloud aggregators in order to ensure that they get their own private cloud, private space in order to host the data and manage it remotely, right? Because of work from home, or so many things that were otherwise feasible pre-pandemic was not feasible after the pandemic era, right? So there will come a situation wherein you may not have a physical office at all. So how would you be prepared for that? So that brings it to another important point, that is a mode of work, wherein you could be working from home, you could be working from anywhere, in fact, or a hybrid model wherein you would ask someone to come to your office today in Mumbai, tomorrow in LA, or whatsoever, right? So this mode of work has been another important segment that the BFSI is looking into. And the last one is, of course, open banking, wherein I'm sure that the traditional BFSI may or may not be able to innovate enough, but then they would definitely not want to miss the bus. So they are providing their APIs in terms of, so as to let the new innovators, the new disruptors come in and participate, provide necessary innovations wherever possible, right, in order to enrich the customer's experience. So these are the trends that I'm seeing, Rajesh.
Oh, excellent. So there's a one more observation, and this particular thing is to, I mean, this can be taken by any of the panelists. Like when we talk about in terms of the COVID or the pandemic, one thing which has come out very evidently is anywhere access, as well as, a collaborative way of working. But when we talk about NBFC or BFSI, so generally those segment has been seen always where the data are been kept close to the heart, and like either it can be on prem or it can be localized environment, which is some sort of bottleneck when you try to talk about in terms of anywhere access. So what is the trend you are seeing specific to the BFSI industry, or in terms of financial segment, where they are changing this particular thing to moving into a cloud? And if at all, if they are doing it, what type of mechanisms which they are adapting to ensure that regulation or regulatory aspects are also being given into consideration? So it is open to any of you, like you can take anyone can take it.
Maybe if I can start,
Please go ahead,
I,
please go ahead.
I think you see basically split on two sorts of data, right? Those data which are critical and they are customer related, and you can label them personal information. But it's a little bit broader, and those are typically kept by much higher observance. And then you have data which are just statistical information about your business, and further on, which you can move freely wherever you want. And I see more and more that a lot of institutions start the discussion with regulators how to actually move to the cloud, right? Because there is still a little bit of uncertainty how far you can move, where the clouds have to be placed to be properly approved by the regulators, right? So it has to be in India. That's one of the restrictions, which is easy to solve because India has the huge advantage of being big country. So there is a lot of resources actually to fulfill that demand. But then the safety of the access of the data, I think, is the next step, right? So once you move it out of prem and you move it to the cloud, to demand the safety of the endpoint where your employees are accessing actually the data is the big challenge. And I think there you come to the solutions like virtual working stations and so on, and you start virtualizing actually entire company from that standpoint. So I think it's definitely interesting how it will play out in next 1 or 2 years. But I think what Dipesh mentioned, the physical offices will become only the habit, right? That we like to go to the physical offices, we like to have them because we like to meet people, but there will be no necessity anymore to sit in one building and connect to one server because we will build the secure ways how to breach it.
No, I completely agree, and also like I also strongly believe is like the way that things are changing. Even there is a need which has been understood very clearly, saying that as you rightly mentioned, classification of the data is must because data can be any nature. Maybe you can have a PII data, you can have a non-sensitive data. Once you label and classify, then it would be easy for us to identify what type of treatment it requires, whether you need to have a masking, you need to have it maybe you need to have it at the local level or whatever it is. But the other thing which I also wanted to check is like nowadays, this particular pandemic has also opened a lot of opportunity. We can see a lot of startup companies coming up, fintech companies are coming up, and they are doing a fantastic job when you talk about in terms of addressing to the problems. But now my question to Josuda is like, when you see from a requirement perspective, there is a two-way of activity, because in India financial institutions still work on the legacy process or legacy procedures, and that's a difference between a fintech and a banking sector. Like there is adaptation of technologies are like wait and watch for banking, but when you talk about fintech, it is a purely a technology company. So as a business person, when you have to involve in terms of identify or provide a solution to your end customer, what is the two major areas which you look forward, be it as a process or be it as a technology?
Okay, so when I correlate your question with the data, and also will go definitely with the Milan, which he said rightly, because when we have enough data with us, we have opportunity to play with the data in two ways actually. One, when we can play with the data, and when in the organization side, that we have opportunity to see the trend to customer satisfaction, customer services, which can help, data can help us. When we predict trend, we can improve our services also. But when we talk about, on the other hand, on the client side, so once the data breach and data security, these two terms are very important, I would say, because when it happens and this whole data is used in the marketing activity, spam, mails, SMS, then actually the entire reputation of that organization, or would say bank or institution, spoils when the client get these kind of in what say in reward of these kind of services. So it is very important. Yes, data, having data definitely makes you powerful, that you can analyze the data, you can get the kind of trends, and you can serve your client better. But at the same time, it is very important, and it is very big responsibility to secure the data, and safety of the data is very important, so that you can make it you can not just save your organization by spoiling the reputation, also uh, I mean, give the best services to the client. So that is a very responsibility of keeping that data.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. So, just to a follow-up question on that, like, we also see a lot of time as a customer, when you talk to any institution, when you want to do a KYC, you have to do KYC at the multiple steps. Even though, like, for an
Yes, yes.
example, be it a banking, bank account, or maybe a loan, or maybe it a investment or something like that. So from a business perspective, how do you think this technology can come and play a role where you can provide a seamless service to the end customer, and also can have a more collaborative approach to ensure that the NPAs and the defaulter part can be reduced by using this, all the technology which currently all of us we are talking about, be it a big data or be it unstructured data, so on and so forth. So, what is your view on that?
I would say my view on this is that the digital disruption can be helpful only if you are available to the client in their requirement area. So my view is that we are actually targeting, or we are actually available in the reach of the customer who are in also reach in the digital platforms. But then actually, if we really want to focus on focus on the digital disruption, then definitely we need to focus on the client where this digital transformation is not available. So in case we go to the customer pyramid, we should reach to the bottom line. So in case we want to make strengthen everything, so in case if your bottom line is stronger, then definitely your upper things get definitely going to be more stronger. So we should reach to the bottom line of that pyramid of customer to provide the services and to make them understand how this digital process is being available for their help and for servicing them. If that is clear, then definitely this is going to be helpful. Otherwise, we will be far away actually. So whether I'm talking about in availability of that, be it small segment client in MSME segment, micro level client, and whether it is, in case if I talk about the geographical area, it should be available into the remote area where the client is actually not available or not in reach to have these services with them.
Oh, yeah, you're correct on that. And also, like, obviously, it like as we say that one size doesn't fit all. So maybe it depend upon that need or the requirement. Maybe one needs to look into. But yes, end of the day, the collaborative approach and sharing of the information is something which probably is going to take the organization forward in the near future, because today we are looking into option like platform as a service, software as a service, and very soon, and in fact in certain scenario, even we are also having data as a service, where we are having a data getting connected cross boundaries, not only from different countries but also into different industry segment. Like you have the data of hospitality to insurance to medical care, so on and so forth. So you are right on that. So Dipesh, the next question would be to you. Like when we talk about a digital transformation, one major talk which probably all of us are having now is related to digital currency. Now, like when you talk about a digital currency, so what is your view in terms of the impact of digital currency in the whole digitalization process? Because now I'm sure you would be looking into the aspect, what is happening outside, where we are talking about some the bodies, they have stopped the centralized processing of the fund transfers and other thing. So there's a other mode by which you people are thinking on those lines. So what is your view, and what do you think that we would be able to reach to the level where we can say yes, we are mature, not only from an acceptability perspective but also from a safety perspective of such technology?
Interesting question, Rajesh. So the conundrum that you're referring to, right? If similar sanction was to happen in India, I think India already has a solve for that with the UPI in place, right? The entire country today is transacting without using of any international exchanges or any international payment mechanism, right? Purely on the basis of the NPCI stack. So it's a superb achievement for the government of India, and thanks to the Indian populace that they are also quite welcoming to the innovations that the government has brought in parallel to Aadhaar, right? So I believe, although digital currency is yet to be out, right? Official white paper around that is not yet published, but with the kind of show that we have seen by the launch of UPI and the kind of uh, kind of innovation or kind of the revolution that it has brought to the Indian financial ecosystem, I'm sure digital currency is definitely going to be one of such big bang release of the Indian government. Maybe with the UPI working together, I'm sure a lot of innovation is going to happen pan India for sure. One big dream of the Indian economy, that is to financially include the entire population, will definitely start happening, right? In the span of next 3 to 4 years post the release of digital currency, right? You'll have an entire trace of who is doing what kind of transaction, where is the money coming from, going to, right? You'll have a good trace of the entire financial transactions. Further to that, if only this can work on the international frontiers, then I'm sure there will be other countries also that will be asking for such technologies so as to make it implemented, just like Nepal recently did with the UPI, right? So I'm quite hopeful, Rajesh, but I can't say much about it. All I can say is that the central body has taken an interesting and impressive step in order to make use of the digital transformation the world is going through, right? So that's really praiseworthy.
Interesting. It's really interesting. And just to add to that particular thing, the next question would be like when you talk about in terms of the valuation of a digital currency. So, like, unless and until you create a value for it, obviously you cannot trade. Maybe you can have a trade introverts, but when you do an extrovert trade, that would be exchange which needs to come into a picture. So, what is
Correct.
your view? Like, today we talked about digital currency. We talked about, all the other what do you call cryptocurrency of the world. Some of them are actually going ahead investing on the cryptocurrency. Some of the institutions are saying no, we will be going at the digital currency, and or anyway that nationalized currency is already there in the picture. But my question is, when you talk about in the larger gamut, do you see a synergy between cryptocurrency and digital currency coming up?
I think it will be too early to comment on that, and I can be more vocal about digital currency, but I can't comment much on the crypto part because it's been there since a while, and it has definitely been one of the inspiration for the entire ecosystem, private bodies, governing bodies, in order to move towards digital, right? However, in contrast to the traditional cryptocurrencies, right? With digital currency, I'm sure it holds a reasonable value to it, right? And that the purpose of bringing it was to ensure that the retail customers make use of it rather than dealing with the physical cash, right? Wherein there are a lot of gray area in which you don't know how it is managed and all, right? In contrast to digital currency, wherein you have a good trace of the fund flow, right? But when it comes to international transaction, I believe, see, a numeric value exchange is something that happens even today, right? And I'm sure all four of us are using the Indian currency in a digital mode only as of today, right? But when it comes to actually making that exchange through SWIFT or whatsoever, I'm sure those are administrative challenges, and that can be tackled separately by the government. And I don't think that is something that retail users should be worrying about. There will come a physical kind of a transaction in between for sure, right? Based on which these transactions are going to occur in the near future. But eventually, if this digital currency movement comes as a success, then there'll be a lot more big countries coming in to adopt this technology. And if the top 8 or top 20 adopts it, then I'm sure the others will follow it at much faster pace.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. Absolutely right. Milan, moving forward to your next question is, as the world is payments environment becoming more cashless, what is your view, like, how the world is reacting to the cyber security, and what are your top priority, seeing that, everything is becoming cashless?
Look, I think that the cybersecurity and the crypto, actually, which was mentioned just before, it's tightly connected. Crypto is one of the most dangerous things if you give it to the public population, because the wallets are super secure only if you remember 15 words in the right order and so on. There is so many people who already lost the money basically by putting them in the wallet and forgetting the code, right? So I think that's one thing where you can demonstrate that the security has to be simplified to the level that the average user can deal with it in daily life. And if you go the other way, then having cash is always the most liquid. I agree. But UPI, I think, and all the actually NPCI stack, as it was mentioned, is so far. And I have to say, coming from Europe, it's a big step which I see here in India, which the India is ahead actually of the Europe in that way for sure. Because if you decide so, you don't need the physical currency. It's basically about your personal decision if you like the cash or not, right? So, and one of the reasons is that it's simplified to the bare bone for the average user to basically deal with the digital transaction without any worry. You put your phone number, you put there one PIN, and pretty much you are done, right? You can transact here and everywhere. Once we connect it to the credit, which will be, I think, the next big step, then you will allow as well the corporations like fintech and financial institutions to disperse the money that way. And then pretty much the bank account is becoming just the wallet in terms of the digital, right? And the security will be always the key to it. But I think what we have to learn from the examples is that we have to, it's our responsibility as institutions to make it safe. And we cannot pass on that responsibility to the user. I think we have to basically build it in such a way that it's safe and secure and understandable for everybody how to deal with that. Because you still can see that actually the social engineering is the biggest cyber attack, which actually in the numbers, is the most common cyber attack which happens. Which is nothing. It's nothing about cyber, right? It's just it's much more easier to send you email and start to try to get some of information from you than go and talk to you, because that's much more suspicious. That's the only thing which is cyber about it. Otherwise, the social engineering was always and will always be the easiest way actually how to attack somebody. And so I think we have to, it's the responsibility of us as financial institutions to make people aware of it and how to prevent it.
Yeah, you're right on that. Just to take this discussion forward, Dipesh, when you talk about in terms of the disruptive technology and the usage of a new thing, maybe like AI and so on and so forth. So, like, do you feel that the organization should be changing the strategy from a defensive AI mechanism to offensive AI mechanism, specifically when they are developing some solution which is specifically meant for BFSI industry?
Okay. Interesting word by the defensive AI. But I can make some speculations of what it could be, right? I believe it is more towards risk mitigations the way the industry was using it before, right?
Yes. So when you talk about in terms of defensive AI, so generally what happens is you need to protect to any attack which is happening in form of automated attacks, maybe a bot attacks or maybe any such things. And that
Mm-hmm.
that when you talk about an offensive sort of scenario is when you reach to a level and before even that reach to you, your system should be capable enough to predict and mitigate it and also can go to the next level.
Right. Fair enough. So I believe we are yet to be there. There is a lot of innovations going in and around making your security system much more robust than what it was before, right? I believe Netflix is one of such interesting example wherein they have some monkey, I don't recall the name, wherein they keep on bombarding customers' network, to see whether they can bring it down or not, and if so, then they fix such vulnerabilities in order to make sure that customers don't face any hindrance during their streaming, right? Such innovations are evident and are coming in and out, uh, but doing it with regards to AI is something that I think a little bit too early to comment, because see, the AI is one term that I feel that's quite widely misused, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we are yet to master much more in terms of machine learning itself. So I think we can't call something AI. Right? AI is something. AI is a system that has intelligence in order to make decisions based on its own cognition, right? So cognitive senses, right? So I don't think we are yet there. However, yes, of course. I mean, there are innovations in and around uh, identifying a potential kind of a fraud by reading traditional data, by looking at the historic data that are available in the general cloud sphere, right? There are a lot of cloud tech already working in and around this, wherein your network could be down. You might be vulnerable to attack because of multiple reasons, such as there's some festival going on, right, wherein you see a lot of volumes of customers transaction in and out. At that time, maybe your focus would be more towards keeping the system alive, and you might slack up a bit in terms of security. And that's where there are technologies built in and around, to make sure that the system is always up and running and is pretty much aware to any kind of vulnerabilities, any kind of penetrations or attack that are brought into the system, to the network, right? However, making it offensive is something I think will take more time.
Okay. 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 Coming back to Jasuda, when you talk about in terms of from a business perspective, one of the major challenge any organization face is the edge level communication, because your customer would be spread across multi geographical, where they would be having a different culture, different language, so on and so forth. So how do you manage such thing when you talk about in terms of technology adaptations, and what are the basic asks which you have when you talk about reaching to that particular customer? Because there would be certain areas where probably people might not talk either English or Hindi, or they would be more easy in terms of to have a conversation and to a local language. So what is your approach on such cases?
Okay. So, as an organization as a whole, we have a philosophy where we work on the three V's actually. I'm specifically coming to this point to answer that, because we actually apply this in practically, which is three V's. Is one is voice. That whenever we call any client, so in case that should feel like it's a customized call. It should not be like that we have a random format to call every client. So we have whenever we generally, we call a client. So in case we have 2 3 languages to use, but generally people know English, Hindi, or in a particular regional language where we basically presence in the India. Secondly is the voice. So in case sorry the second we have video. So in case we talk about video, so there is a good trend in the market where we flash some videos explaining our product services, whether it is regarding the process requirements, or some kind of case for giving the videos explaining where clients should pay on time so that they can save themselves from the bad civil scores and all. So we follow the video, we follow the voice, where then multiple languages can be explained. And the good trend is also the reel, which generally is it's in trend. So circulating reels in the various languages. And most important is the vernacular. So when we talk about languages, so we know the fact that yes, we are in a country where we are a lot of languages being used, and every kilometers we have a different language. So we definitely doing follow in this, and we are accepting, and we provide services, and whether it is voice, whether it is a voice chat, we provide all the solutions, repercussions, and solutions and process in all the languages to the client, so that this is not just to provide, but then also to make them feel that yes, we are connected.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So, just moving forward, the next question is to all the panelists. Anyone can take it up. So, when we talk about the IoT, generally IoT are identified by a device which can give you a lot of sensoric data on multiple touch points. So, it is like more in terms of transactional based system, and one can very easily correlate with manufacturing or retail or something. But my question is, do you think that this IoT can play a very vital role when you talk about in terms of financial segment or BFSI segment? If yes, can you say that? Can you just tell some of the use cases where probably IoT can play a very major role?
I think the biggest and the closest to that is the insurance business, yeah, because if you look into it, and it's already applied actually in the world, right? When you have a cars, then they are installed basically the IoT chips inside, which are following the driver's habits, the driver's practice, and based on that, the insurance is charged per the behavior, which automatically motivates the user basically to behave securely and safely, so the insurance goes down. You see it in medical as well, partially, but there is a lot of discussion about it, how far we can go. Then we are coming back to the personal and privacy of the data, right? What is private and what we can already share, and so on. I think it will take time before it will come to classical banking or financial institutions, because there is typically missing the subject of it, right? The utility of it. And I see it applying in the CDs where you are financing consumer durables. Then you can apply some of that. But for a cash business, this will be hardly applicable, I think.
Yeah, interesting. So that brings another question. When you talk about such scenario, we talk about the OT data. And a lot of our organization or enterprise really struggle hard to see how they can manage or have an interoperability between IT and OT data, which is the enterprise level data, be it like as you said, the insurance segment, or could be anything. So now, what would be your take? Like, where are we when we talk about in Indian scenario? Are we mature enough to handle such things, or are we still in the learning stage where we say, yes, listen, we are going to go there, but still we are not mature? Because it might require a lot of things. It might require to have an interoperability between two different business unit. One is the manufacturing, like if you talk about the car is the automobiles. Then you talk about in terms of insurance, it is a separate segment altogether. Be it insurance versus medical. Like if you have a medical history, then insurance will go up. Or there's a lot of permutation combinations are there. And also in India, like the organizations or the industry gets regulated by their own way. Like there is a HIPAA part is there, then IRDA is there, SEBI is there, so on and so forth are there. So do you think that we are mature enough to reach to that level immediately, or any organization can think on those lines and start working on it, or they need to be cautious about taking such call and they need to look for from all angle before they go ahead and implement it? Because technologically, yes, we know it is possible, but now in terms of adaptability, where are we? That's a question.
I would stay away from the medical. Yeah, that's, I think, the chapter on its own. But for the
Yeah.
rest of it, I think India is in same position as the rest of the world. So India is ready to jump on it. It's just basically the businesses to find a way how to monetize it. And I think that simply nobody had the need yet, probably in the sector yet, to find the monetization of these niches. And once that need will come, then you will see actually a huge boost of it. So I think it's not about maturity from the perspective. I think there is no gap. I think it's just because India is so fast growing economy. There are much other easier solutions to raising your potential than focusing on IoT.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely correct. So, Dipesh, next question is, when we talk about in terms of IoT-based system, do you think like that preventive mechanism in terms of chaos-based system to disperse the automated disbursement of the loan or ATM can be another good use case when you talk about from a financial segment? See, right now, what happens is when the fraud happens, in most of the cases, it gets into reactive, not proactive. So the
Mhm.
idea is like how we can put such system in a place so that we can have a proactive measure, and then and there itself, rather than doing an analysis and taking a call.
See, kiosk-based applications, kiosk-based customers acquisition has been into practice since a while now, right? Somewhere other way, right? I mean, taking a tablet into to a customer's place and getting a customer fill up their data is almost equivalent to a customer interacting with the kiosk, because there also you have a camera in order to read customers' expression. You have customers' way of interacting with the device, right? So there are a lot of metadata in and around a customer that you can establish in order to make sure whether the customer is, in a normal sentiment in order to go with this application, or whether the customer is in distress because of which this activity is happening. So those mechanisms are there, but again, like Milan said, right, finding the real business use case is the challenge as of now. Otherwise, uh, IoT based business use case have started coming into pictures, right? Today, if you go to a mall, right, you may, I mean, there are department stores wherein you don't even have to go to the billing counter in order to check out, right? So now, uh, a fraudster could try out, by scratching or by doing it here and there, but then there are cameras, to alert the system on whether there is any mishap happening, right, or any mischievous activities happening in and around, right? So those mechanisms are there in place. When it comes to loan disbursement, see, nobody would need a cash loan as on today, right? Any loan that you take would be always based on purpose. So, for example, today if I have to book a cab, right, I simply use my Alexa, just say, okay, hey, book a cab for me, and on the back end, it will just use my Ola Money account in order to pay for that, right? So technically, that is also registered as a loan. So somewhere or other, it's all about defining the use case, right? You're not selling loan to the customer, you're selling business to the customer, and providing an aid to that business through your financial ecosystem. Now, if the customer is credit worthy, then I'm sure that there are IoTs able enough to provide such services seamlessly to the customers.
Interesting. I agree on that. Uh, as we are almost at the end of the session, the last question would be, can you quickly tell our top three trend which you could see coming up in a financial segment in next 1 year? Starting with
Top
Milan.
three. Yeah,
Trend
all
which
right.
you could see coming in financial sectors. Yeah, Milan, please go ahead.
Sorry. Well, it's a difficult one, to be honest. To predict the future is always the fortune telling a little bit, but I think we will see much more of basically personalization still, because what we see now is the basic personalization, right? I know your name, so I call you by your name, but that's not really personalization that this was foreseen in digital world. So I think we will see what is now called hyper personalization. I think that will definitely come, and we will see connecting of the ecosystem around. So I think now you have a lot of silos in digital space which are not connected, right? And next years we will see connecting that information together, and you can all tie it up with Meta or cyberspace and all these things. But in practical world, I think for people it will mean that they will be served hopefully better content and better products, right? That's the main aim. And in general, I think the predictor engines will go far beyond. So that will be the third one actually. You can take Amazon as the lead on that, but I'm sure that all the others we will try to catch up and offer in all the other segments to the customer what or she wants and what we think is the right for him.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, going back to Jasoda, your views.
So, in my view, as we are witness with the scams which has happened due to cybersecurity concern, so what I feel that yes, in coming trends, definitely it would be the one, because we have seen a tremendous increment in the number of scams happened in the 2020 and now in 2021. And I was also surprised when I got to know there was an 11% hike. And then I was when I had seen the in terms of volume of money, I was also surprised the average cost come to the companies who actually witnessed of this approximately $4 million. So this is, I'm sure, this is going to be definitely a biggest concern. And I was also realized that yes, out of entire BFSI segment, where approximately 25% of executive have already taken the budget of for this thing for cybersecurity concern. So taking care of, help of cybersecurity experts. So glad to know that. I'm sure this is going to be a trend in the coming year. Secondly, when being a responsible player in the industry, yes, on the compliances side, that we have certain responsibility towards our regulators, whether it is MCA, RBI, SEBI, whatever the guidelines we come up with the new guidelines from regulators. So certainly there would be a digital platform where the whether they are being followed or whether they are not followed, it should be a digitally follow-up should be done. And I'm sure as initially that I had a biggest concern on the collection. So my third view definitely would be the collection and recovery in the sector. There, I would expect the technology come up, whether though already there are few companies, new age fintech NBFCs coming up with the new technology where they have certain trends of previous clients to prevent over the recovery mechanism. So I'm sure there's going to be another trend that we expect where we would have some technology to help us in getting some trends to make some decision on basis of that trend, and some technology which help us in getting recovery part of.
Interesting.
From my view, these three would.
Oh, interesting view. I really resonate with that. You know what you are saying. Dibesh, your view, please.
Yes. So first is definitely more and more likes of LinkedIn Club, because see, on the lending side we are providing almost real-time funding to customers, right? So not many players are there out today that are able to do so, right? So at least I'm looking for more and more players coming into the market space, right? And today Just like we at Lean Club are offering about 12% return to most of our investors. There are not many players that are able to do so, right? So I'm expecting more and more such kind of financial instruments to come to the market. Second would be definitely smart banking with the use of IoTs, right? Today, just the way we discussed, right, with the use of smart devices, smart home automations, kiosk based transactions, right, big use of beacons and everything in places. Of course, your mobile devices, right, and a lot of things are yet to come. And the third one would be more iterations with AI, such as, more interactions with AI, such as the use of robo advisory, RPA, smart analytics, and BI, etc. So these are the trends that I'm looking.
Great, Dipesh. It's again interesting. And one thing I can say, like, especially as a closing note, like this pandemic has actually opened a multiple door, and I can say this pandemic has created a lot of opportunity, and the
Right.
business who are getting into that to understanding that particular opportunity are actually going to grow. And definitely most of the people have also realized that this is the time where they need to do something which they have never done, because I strongly believe if you are a SME and if you are doing a job which you are doing what you have been asked for. But in case if you are able to do something which you don't know, and if you are able to scale out of it in a proper way, that is where one's caliber comes up. And this is that opportunity or the right time where people can think, introspect, and realize that there are certain more things what they were doing and they can do better than in some other area as well. And this is not only as an individual but for the organization as well. So with that, I would like to conclude the session. Thanks a lot, Jasoda, Milan, and Dipesh for having the insightful and interesting discussion. And I have really learned a lot of things on this particular, discussion as an outcome. I am sure all the participants and all the attendees would also had the similar view. Once again, thanks a lot. Over to you, Shivani.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. Now, I would request all the speakers to stay back as we will be presenting a token of appreciation. Can we have the certificates on the screen? Thank you, Milan Delansky, Chief Digital Officer, Home Credit India. Thank you, sir, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasoda Gulia, Business Head, Press Loans. Thank you, ma'am, for joining. Thank you, Krishnamurthy Rajesh, Director, Information Technology Global, Grey Orange. Thank you, sir, for joining and moderating the session so beautifully.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dipesh Karki, Chief Digital Officer, Lean Club. Thank you, sir, for joining and sharing your valuable views. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, and best of luck to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.